Psychedelics Decriminalization bill clears California legislature. California is trying to be the third state in the nation to decriminalize plant-based psychedelics. The guy who pushed this bill through, Senator Scott Wiener, he lost in the last session, so he's come back again with I don't want to call it watered down, but it's got less features to it. And what it's going to do as of January 1st, 2025 is decriminalize mescaline, psilocybin, psilocin, and plant-based DMT. They scratched out ibogaine when it went back for some more look in the assembly. It's headed to the governor's desk. And as I've talked in several times in these initiatives and these state laws, there's a lot of features that still need to be answered here. And one of the things that this law is going to do is put together a working group. And I know that tends to be mental masturbation. It doesn't get a lot done. But at least they're going to take a look at such things as therapeutic use and including training and qualifications for therapists and facilitators, develop policy recommendations, which is what most of these committees do, statewide programs providing therapeutic psychedelic services. What's that going to look like? The education and training required. What are these facilities going to look like? Are there going to be any rules and regulations for that? And also statewide credentialing of facilitators and therapists. Now, these have been some of the questions that haven't yet been answered. And one of the things that I saw in California when the cannabis industry started to go, everybody and his brother declared they're a consultant, knew what the fuck they were talking about. And maybe 20, 30% of them had an idea. The rest of them were just full of shit. And we've been dealing with some of the consequences of people who don't know what they're doing when it comes to drugs and alcohol and counseling and therapy sessions, coming in and declaring that got a PhD or whatever they claim they've got in something. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to grow psilocybin mushrooms or to take them. And this law is going to allow for personal use to grow up to a gram of these substances that contain, of the fungi, if you will, that contain all this stuff. And four grams of substance itself, you can produce that and take it at home yourself. But if you're going to allow people to be a therapist or a facilitator and have places where it's going to be distributed, the state committee is going to work on how do you guarantee that this is safe and effective. You can't have somebody growing it in their backyard with cow shit and sending it into a store and giving it to people. There's got to be some rules and regulations about this. I haven't seen them that actually work. But I don't think you need to have a PhD in psychology to be a facilitator or a therapist in this either. So there's a lot of room in here to try to fill in gaps that would be practical and that would actually work. But one of the things that I'm seeing in this bill is it has drastically decriminalized almost all drug use here. Now, if you provide these to children under the age of 14, it's got prison sentences, 2, 4, and 6 years. Everything else that you do with respect to these is either a misdemeanor with a maximum fine of $70. I kind of laughed at it. Take a look at it again. $70 fucking is all a judge can fine you. Okay, and that's for taking it onto a school ground. I mean, shit like that. Okay, many of these are made infractions, and if you're a kid caught with this, you get education and community service. So they're trying not to fill up jails with people who do this. Okay, but this is going to be interesting to see how it rolls out, because if the governor signs this and it's going to take a year to take effect, between now and then, I'm hard pressed to think overworked cops and jurisdictions are going to be anxious to go out and try to look up people that are taking mushrooms, unless you're under the influence driving a car or something. I think it's going to further influence let's just not put this as a priority enforcement. If you find somebody fucked up on mushrooms driving a car and thinks they're flying like, Flintstones, that's a different story. But for most people, leave them alone. And this is another step towards normalizing the use of psychedelics for depression, PTSD, anxiety, and especially drug addiction. It's got a lot of promise for drug addiction. So the governor's going to have this on his desk, may have it already, and we'll see if Gavin Newsom, who's a closet wannabe presidential candidate, see if he's going to be willing to step up and do this and, wear it as a badge of honor, or if he's going to duck it and hide from it and stay out of the limelight. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's a good step if we can pass it. It's just got a lot of unanswered questions. So I'm going to throw it back at you. What do you all have to say?
Man, psychedelics. I think ultimately he's going to sign this bill, though, Dale.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think he definitely will sign this. What do you think about this bill, Rochelle? You love psychedelics.
I mean, I think it's definitely a great start, a step in the right direction. I wrote about this for Green State last week, and I spoke with Reggie Harris from Oakland High Fae, who's pretty active in the Bay Area psychedelic community, and he agrees that it's a great step in the right direction, but we still need to do more to ensure that there aren't penalties beyond this, right, in California, and keep fighting for legal psychedelics. And he's a little bit more radical. He wants all drugs legalized. Some people agree with that, some people don't, but I think it's definitely sending the right message, and I think that especially that the plant-based psychedelics, I think is an important distinction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Psilocybin
Yep.
versus LSD. So,
I mean, I feel like
Well,
LSD is getting discriminated against, though, if you're making it only plant-based medicines.
but it's a synthetic, and
Just saying.
that's part of the problem, because you can derive LSD from ergot, but most of it's done synthetically now. But one of the steps we need to take here is to protect. I mean, I'm an attorney. We have clients who do psychedelics, and it's a difficult dance to take because this is still illegal. And so when you go to an attorney, we try to explain to you how to do this. We have to delineate lines that we can't step over, like we used to have to do with weed. I'd like to see them put in some protections for contracting for this at the state level, and not have it be a breach of professional conduct for an attorney to advise you and help you set up businesses to do this. We still got some more to go. And for me and other attorneys who do psychedelic work, we're still reluctant to jump in it because, I mean, I went to prison for fucking weed. I'm not looking to go to prison for mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So we still got some ways to go here.
I'm curious, Dale, when Minneapolis announced their executive order, essentially like decriminalizing certain psychedelics, I spoke with a defense attorney in Minneapolis, and maybe this is, more Minnesota based, but he was saying that he didn't really see a lot of cases involving psilocybin in his practice in Minnesota. It was more that it was about other drugs, and sometimes psilocybin or psychedelics would be found, but he didn't think much would change in terms of how hardcore the cops are about psychedelics versus other drugs. What do you think about that?
Well, what I can say is that it's going to be specific to certain locations within California. And Gretchen, you may have figured this out. You get outside these big cities, and it is, Wyoming rural. They are conservative. The cops are conservative. So up where I live, there is no discussion about having any psychedelics up here. But we work in the Bay Area also. Our office is in Pleasanton. So we have a lot of clients in the Bay Area, which has made this the lowest enforcement priority. So we're going to have to sneak up on this a bit and see. Criminal defense attorneys run into drug issues more than attorneys like me who are corporate based. We're trying to set the businesses up. We are trying to make sure that we protect people as much as we can within the confines of the corporate laws and things like that to protect their assets. It's still impossible to protect them from criminal charges. They make them low priority, but you can still get hit with a charge for this. This new legislation would take it out of the criminal sphere. And it also says in there that this is not contraband. You can't take it from people. It's not the basis for probable cause for warrants. I mean, they really shut down any shit that the cops tend to do and the DAs tend to do when they pinch you for drugs. I mean, they just stick a microscope up your ass and they rape you as hard as they can to get you to settle. And it's going to be taken away from all this in this legislation.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dale, you said that you wouldn't go to prison for mushrooms.
Well, I'm not looking to go to prison by advising people on how to do this. Okay? Because I played this game. They took all my records. I had to go to the appellate court. I was accused of the crime fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege, and they just were ugly. I'm not looking to do that anymore. I don't think the environment in California is going to do that. But, this is still a federal crime too, and I'm a federal felon. So I would like to see some more guidance for attorneys who are trying to righteously help people do this in a way that's safe for the public and protects them from, criminal liability and from civil liability and even administrative and regulatory liability. I'd like to see some more guidance along those lines. But no, I ain't looking to go to prison for mushrooms.
Well, I was going to say, so you don't want to be the fun guy on the yard, huh?
Well, I've been the fun wood on the yard before, and it wasn't so fun.
Oh, man. We got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.